Hello everyone, I am Braun-Duin, and I am joined once again by
CVM.
And we are here for a versus video deck tech with some Magic Origins action, and for the first time we actually have the real Magic Origins cards. Pre-release was last weekend, so we got a chance to play with them a little bit, and now we're going to see how they play in Standard. So let's go ahead and look at this deck. It is Green-White Collected Company. So basically this is a deck that we've seen before. It uses Death Mist Raptor and Den Protector, the standard Megamorph shell, along with Collected Company and a bunch of good value creatures in green and white. Usually it's just full of a lot of creatures, and then plays some Company, some Dromoka's Commands, and some Valorous Stances. Is pretty much the basic shell of the deck. And the reason I'm revisiting this deck is because we have a couple new creatures that seem like they could be good in the deck. So one of them is Kythian, Hero of Akros, basically the new Gideon, where you can play this creature pretty early in the game, and then you can use Collected Company to hit two other creatures, which will immediately turn them into a Planeswalker when you attack the next turn. So you can have a board of just a Kythian, and the next turn you have a Gideon in play. And then the other one is Nissa, Vastwood Seer, which is just a really good value creature to hit off a Collected Company. But the thing about this deck is we actually have a lot of mana sinks. And one of the things about playing this deck is you actually want to keep hitting your land drops because you want to be able to cast Collected Company. You want to be able to play and flip a Den Protector. You want to be able to Monstrous a Fleecemane Lion, level up a Warden, bestow a Boon Satyr. We have all these mana sinks in the deck, things that can be done cheaper but also more expensively as well. And it really just makes finding an extra land like actually a relevant thing. And then it gives us another dimension where we have the ability to just make this Planeswalker too.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I really like how all of the creatures in the deck can be found with Collected Company. You have a lot of really great hits, and getting the upgrade for Kythian and Nissa is pretty sweet. This deck got popular shortly after Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. I know that a few people were playing it, and it was using stuff like Avatar, the Resolute, and Reverend Hunter, and these new creatures / Planeswalkers just seem much better than those other cards.
Yeah, I mean, these are just more powerful cards in general. Like, those cards are, like, good in certain situations, but these are cards where they're going to be just good most of the time.
That's one of the great things about something like Collected Company, and it goes along the same lines as cards like Stoneforge Mystic, Court of Calling, Green Sun Zenith. Like, Wizards is going to continue to print creatures that cost 3 mana or less, and every time they do, it just makes Collected Company better.
Yeah, there are cards like that that just can get better every single set. Basically, anything that lets you search through your deck is usually a candidate for a card that's going to get better the more cards they print. So yeah, definitely agree with that about Collected Company. Other than that, the deck's pretty much the same as what we've seen before, so I'm not going to really dwell on it too much. Mana base is pretty straightforward. Sadly, for a 2-color deck, it's not that great of a mana base. I wanted to try Knight of the White Orchid, but I just didn't feel comfortable trying to play it off of only 6 planes. Even though we do have some other more white sources than that, it just didn't seem high impact enough if we're not going to be able to play it on something like turn 2.
If only we had Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, if we had Noble Hierarch, whew, things would be different here. But yeah, that's the main deck for the new Green-White Company deck with some of the sweet Planeswalkers. Let's look at the sideboard. All right, so the sideboard for the most part looks pretty similar to what we've seen before from this style of deck. We have Irrational Clerics and Hornet Nest against aggressive strategies, Glares for things like Elspeth, Plummets for things like Stormbreath Dragon or Dragonlord Atarka. But there are some, and then a couple Elspeths, which a lot of the lists for playing things like Whisperwood or Wingmate Rock or whatever. And I think I like Elspeth a little bit more just because, one, we have Nissa, so I think it's easier to hit 6 mana. And also, I think Elspeth's just a higher impact card against a lot of decks like some of the Grindy or Abzan decks, where I think that's where you want those kinds of cards, and that's where I think Elspeth's like a little bit better. And then we have 2 new cards here. So one of them is Tragic Arrogance, and this is kind of the fixed Cataclysm, where you basically get to choose one of each permanent type.
Non-land permanent.
Non-land permanent type. So you get to choose a Planeswalker, a creature, an artifact, and an enchantment for each player, and they get to keep. You choose one that they keep, and the rest get destroyed. So basically, against things like green.
Destroy or sacrifice?
Probably
it is sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
So it does get rid of
things like Erebos' Titan or anything.
Yeah, well, anything's indestructible. So if they have, a
Monstrous Lion.
Actually, does it get rid of Darksteel Citadel? Yeah, it doesn't actually. Oh, it does say non-land.
It's non-land, yeah.
Rats.
But it gets rid of things like Monstrous Fleecebane Lions or
cool.
Rakshasa Death Dealers or the like. But basically, I think that this card is going to be really good against the Devotion decks, the green Devotion decks, which those are by far the worst matchup for this style of deck. They just go over the top of you so easily. But this is going to give you a fighting chance where you can be like, all right, I'm going to keep my, whatever, Fleecebane Lion, and you get to keep your Elvish Mystic and sacrifice your, like, Atarka, Hornet Queen, all that other stuff. And it's also sweet because we have things like Boon Satyr too, where we can be like, we can keep Boon Satyr as our enchantment and keep something else as our creature. And if our opponent has like a Courser, we can make them keep the Courser as their creature and as their enchantment. Yep. So it's kind of a thing where since you get to choose for both players, it's really a powerful effect. I think Cataclysm was each player chooses for themselves, right?
Yep.
So with Cataclysm, your opponent kind of got a little bit of say in it. Although Cataclysm did blow up lands, which is extremely
yeah,
it's why that card was played. But with this card, it's pretty awesome that you get to make the choices. So you get to really screw them over pretty hard. So I think that the card's like going to be really powerful for that. And the last one we have is Gaia's Revenge, and I think that Gaia's Revenge is one of the top 5 cards from the set. And it's not something that people are really talking about, but this card is extraordinarily punishing for control decks. To like a level that we haven't seen in a long time. It really punishes control decks on a level that you just would not expect. Basically, they can't kill it with removal spells, and they can't counter it, and it deals 8 to them the turn you play it, and they basically have to have a board sweeper or they will immediately die.
Pretty much.
Yes, so that is the beauty of Gaia's Revenge. And it may seem crazy that we're playing a 7-mana spell in our 24-land deck, but we do have Elvish Mystics and Nissas, which are going to help us ramp. And against control, games are going to go long. We have Den Protectors and Death Mists that are going to really gum up the board for a long period of time. I think it's very conceivable that casting Gaia's Revenge is a real thing. And I really like how it interacts with Ugin, where Ugin has to -7 to get rid of the Gaia's Revenge, killing itself. And it also conveniently has 8 power to kill an Ugin as well. So there's, generally kill an Ugin as well. So I think that there's a lot of awesome things about Gaia's Revenge, especially against the control decks right now. So I wanted to give it a shot. Maybe it's greedy with only 24 lands, but we do have some mana ramp, so we'll see if we can maybe get to Gaia's Revenge.
I think that Gaia's Revenge is really going to shine once Thoughtseize is gone.
That's true. Thoughtseize, yeah.
Thoughtseize is going to be difficult for the card. When it was in Standard last time, Valakut was using it to beat up on the blue-black control decks. Now, we want to do the same thing. Thoughtseize does kind of hurt since they can attack our mana to keep us off casting it. But once Thoughtseize is gone, the card's going to be real good.
Yeah. I mean, even with Thoughtseize, you can still just peel it off the top and kill them. That forces them. And another thing about Gaia's Revenge, the last thing, is I think people are going to be switching to Languish, and it conveniently survives Languish, too. So, really, I think the card's great.
All convenience.
A lot of convenience with Gaia's Revenge. I hated this card the first time it was around in Standard because I was always playing blue-white or blue-black control, and I had to, always have a Grave Titan or something in play, or I would just never be able to beat this card. And now I'm happy to see it because I'm not playing those kinds of decks. So, it's maybe a little bit selfish of me, but whatever. Gotta call them how I see them. But anyway, hope you guys enjoy our video. CVM's not doing a deck tech because he is just playing pretty classic blue-black control.
Yep. So, Brad Nelson wrote, had a list in his article last week on the premium side. Make sure you check it out. That's what we're battling with.
Yep. All right, let's get to the battles.